I'm Angelina King. Tonight, less than 2 weeks into summer, we're already dealing with potentially dangerous weather, and the heat and humidity we felt today isn't letting up just yet.
I can't afford to replace the air conditioner. There's just no way.
With the city's most vulnerable in mind, we'll tell you where you can cool off and stay safe. Plus,
it was reported that construction workers were feeling the effects of possibly exhaust from machinery.
Several construction workers were taken to hospital today after an incident involving carbon monoxide. We'll have the latest. And
a 1934 8-meter class boat, built in Scotland and brought over to Canada in 1975.
We'll take you to Lake Ontario for a brave rescue mission. Crews dove deep to recover a nearly 100-year-old racing yacht. There's no way to avoid the heat and humidity today. With temperatures in the high 20s and low 30s, people flocked to places to cool off, including to public pools. This is a look of Alex Duff Memorial Pool at Christie Pitts, where we begin our coverage tonight. The pool is still open this late into the evening. It's one of 7 public pools across Toronto. The city is keeping open until 11:45 tonight. It's just one way people can cool off after a hot day that reached as high as 31 degrees late this afternoon. We caught up with a few people who went for a late night swim.
It's amazing, so we can cool off after a very, very hot day.
Got to see our friends and not be as hot. It was really hot. It was really sweaty. We were dripping sweat when we jumped in. Yeah.
It's sweltering hot out. It's nice to have a place to come cool down.
The heat warning we're currently under is expected to last through Thursday. While the hot weather gives some the opportunity to hit the beach or pool, as we've known tonight, it does pose a threat to some of the city's most vulnerable. Dale Manukduk has more.
The sunshine.
One person who's using the melting heat to her advantage to dry out some freshly prepared snacks.
Item I put it in grating, put it here. This one I give to my family member and community I help.
But across the street from the Wellesley Community Center on the 22nd floor of this high-rise apartment building, 71-year-old Noreen McLean isn't loving it as much.
Turn up.
She's using a broken air conditioner as a high-powered fan.
It says 88 to 88 on here. It helps to circulate the air, so I go, well, why throw it out when I can have it as a fan? So why? Because I'm retired, I'm on a pension, so I can't afford to replace the air conditioner. There's just no way. That's more accurate than that.
Inside, it's 29 degrees and rising. And with 5 cats to look after, she tries not to leave them alone. If she wanted to, the city advises that you beat the heat by visiting a cool space near you. Not sure where to go? Toronto has an interactive map with hundreds of places to go, including civic centers, malls, libraries, community centers, and more.
The city moved away from running only about 6 to 10 temporary cooling centers to the Heat Relief Network, which is an expansive network of over 550 facilities that form part of this network that provide heat mitigation.
Not good enough, says street nurse Kathy Crow, who's concerned about people experiencing homelessness. They might not have the money for frozen blended smoothies or the means to get to a cool space.
Well, they're more susceptible to dehydration, heat stroke, just because they're out and they're in it. The city has to step up. They have to give us free transportation, free TTC on these kinds of days, and they have to do more.
And more heat will roll in the next few days. Temperatures are expected to hit the 30s into Thursday.
Typically this time of year, Toronto gets a high temperature during the day of 26 degrees or so. And overnight, they get about 15 degrees as an overnight low. So this is a bit warmer than normal.
That might mean more trips to the pool, which isn't a bad thing for some.
The pool's really nice. The water is refreshing and puts smiles on their faces, so that's all that really matters.
In response, the city is keeping 7 pools open until 11:45, including Monarch Park, which you see behind me. And for those experiencing homelessness, it is tough because the city's shelter system is often at capacity and they are turning away hundreds every single night. But there are some 24-hour respite centers. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
You're looking at a live shot of our city tonight. Of course, a little bit cooler now than earlier today, but not by too much. Let's go to Jay Scotland for more.
Well, Angelina, another very muggy day on tap for tomorrow. Wednesday shaping up to be just as hot as what we saw today. And again, late afternoon, early evening, we'll have to keep our ear to the sky for that isolated thunderstorm chance. Anytime we have humid air in place, a lot of sunshine, daytime heating, plus that lake breeze that sets up in the afternoon. We do have that risk for some isolated showers and thunder showers. As for tonight, that sky does continue to clear. Do watch, though, for some low-lying areas down towards the lakeshore as well. It's muggy. The wind is fairly calm tonight. We could see some fog patches certainly set up through the overnight hours into the early morning hours. Otherwise, sunshine to start from Niagara, wrapping through the GTA all the way east through Durham region tomorrow. And we're going to continue to see that sunshine through early to mid-afternoon. Late afternoon, very isolated, but we do have that thunderstorm chance setting up through the day. More widespread risk on Thursday with an approaching cold front. So sunny, maybe a few fog patches to start the day tomorrow. Very warm to start the morning. Clouds start to increase through the afternoon, but isolated the chance will be for those late afternoon and early evening thunder showers. Do keep an ear to the sky. 31, by the way, likely going to feel closer to, if not 40, with the humidex. Angelina.
Well, several people were taken to hospital after an incident at a construction site in North York. First responders say workers began to feel ill after inhaling carbon monoxide fumes. Tyler Cheese has the latest.
Around 1:30 this afternoon, Toronto police reported that they had responded to an industrial accident at this construction site here in North York. As you can see, multiple emergency vehicles are here on Yonge Street, just south of Cummer Avenue. Toronto Fire has confirmed that a gas-powered machine was being used at the site and that workers started to feel ill due to the carbon monoxide levels in the area. When emergency crews arrived, they first cleared the area, then began assessing workers at the scene. Toronto Paramedic Services says 12 workers were assessed. 7 were taken to hospital. 1 is in serious but stable condition. The other 6 are also in stable condition. Traffic was delayed earlier today while crews were on site.
Emergency vehicles on scene, fire, paramedics, and police assisting with traffic and just managing other people who may have felt the effects of this.
Now, the Ministry of Labour has provided a statement to CBC Toronto confirming they do have an inspector on site to investigate the incident. The ministry says no further details can be shared at this time as its investigation is ongoing. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
York Regional Police are warning the public about the dangerous consequences of fentanyl consumption after a series of overdoses over the weekend, including 1 death.
If you are going to take drugs, it's probably best to take it in the company of somebody else so that if you do overdose, at least somebody is there to help you. And also there is a law that if you are suspected of taking an overdose or a drug and we turn up, you're not in trouble for that drug. We're there to help you, and we will ensure that you get the help that you need.
A total of 6 suspected fentanyl overdoses were reported over the long weekend, including a man in Vaughan who was found unresponsive in a bus shelter. He was transported to hospital where he later died. It was one of several overdoses involving cocaine that was believed to be laced with fentanyl. Police are reminding the public that any drug is considered dangerous and potentially life-threatening. We're learning more about possible plans to push back against development of the Greenbelt. The Ford government wants to see tens of thousands of new homes built on some of the land. But Ottawa may try to block those efforts over concerns development will harm at-risk species. Our Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has more.
Lands have already been removed from the Greenbelt, but the division and fight continue. Now, Global News says it received federal documents from March listing 29 different at-risk species that either live or are likely to live on lands that had been protected, including birds, mammals, and insects. It says the federal memo was dated days before the federal minister confirmed he was studying the potential impacts of allowing development there, but not doing a regional assessment that requires the different governments to work together.
That collaboration isn't possible, so we're using a different tool, but to get to the same goal.
The federal government has the power to stop or slow down developments due to potential danger to species or habitat. At the time, the premier said he wasn't bothered.
I have no problem with it. It shouldn't slow down our development plans. It's adjacent. It's not right there. But good luck to him. and we're going to build a beautiful community there.
Learning of the federal memo, an environmental organization that's also compiled a list of species at risk in parts of the Greenbelt, was relieved.
It's really great to see the federal government taking their legislative responsibility seriously to protect these species and looking into what they could do to protect them.
He says this fish, the red-sided dace, is one example of a species that could be harmed if housing goes ahead in parts of the former Greenbelt. A fish, he says, needs clear streams.
We're not talking like species that exist all over the place and that we can destroy a big chunk of their habitat and they'll still do fine. These are species that are down the last little bits of places where they live. And we have a huge responsibility here to do the right thing.
A spokesperson for the Minister of Housing says any building on the former Greenbelt lands must avoid any impacts to species at risk, just like any development. The province says it hasn't heard from the federal government on this since those comments back in March. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Some Toronto residents could be seeing some extra money in their bank accounts this week. Tomorrow is the day checks and direct deposits go out to those eligible for the grocery rebate promised by the federal government in this year's budget.
Any little bit of money in right now makes a difference for sure. I mean, I've been shopping so carefully and paying attention to prices for so long. Yeah, I think it'll make a good big help.
Put it towards some bill. It will make a difference for a lot of people, especially in this neighborhood. So I think it's really important.
Eligible families of 4 will receive up to $467 by direct deposit or check from the Canada Revenue Agency. Single people without children will get up to $234, and seniors will see a rebate of up to $225. The government has billed the one-time payment as targeted inflation relief for some 11 million low. Welcome back. It was an impressive recovery mission near Toronto Island. Crews worked to hoist a nearly century-old racing yacht from the bottom of Lake Ontario. The 8-meter vessel sunk after a collision 2 weeks ago. Ali Shiasan has more on how the rescue went.
It was in the second leg of the first race. The accident happened. In the collision, the boat got a hole in it, yes, which caused it to take on water. And it got to such an extent that the pumps couldn't handle it, and the boat went under.
The Severn 2 is an 8-meter racing yacht built of mahogany in Scotland in 1934. It's the crown jewel of the Giles family. Unfortunately, just before her 90th birthday, the Severn 2 sank in her last regatta. That was 2 weeks ago, just outside of the Toronto Islands.
With son William here was the last one on before she went down.
At the time of the collision, you're just worried about safety. There was no other course of action but to start to evacuate.
But the amazing thing was there was no injuries between the two boats other than some scrapes and bruises.
But good news from the depths of Lake Ontario.
We have an approximate location of the boat on the bottom. It is going to be surveyed by a submersible drone to assess any further damage. And if it's in the condition we think and hope it's in, they'll be able to raise it.
Let's go get her. Giles' family friend Mike, aka Rusty, takes us over to the recovery operation.
It's emotional. You've got, I think, at least 3 generations of the Giles family have been racing Severn 2, and they don't just race it, they take care of it, they lovingly maintain it. It's a big part of their family. So when they lost it, the whole club kind of felt it.
It was touch and go trying to hoist her from the sandy lake bed 180 feet below the surface.
We then ran a remote operating vehicle down. We passed a line. We're attempting to connect her. And the idea is you pass a thin line, which brings a thicker line, which brings a lifting strap. The problem we're facing right now is that there's a lot of debris down there because her sails are still on board, along with spare lines floating around. So we're getting a little bit tangled up.
It's like trying to thread a needle in a haystack underwater.
We're feeling very optimistic. They've made several attempts already, but we're down to the short strokes in the last couple, I think, this time around. But I think they may have it right, and hopefully we'll see the boat rise sooner than later.
It took hours longer than expected.
The line is choked around the mast. They just are trying to get it a little more choked
just so it's right secure up against the lifting point.
It's amazing to see how, at the same time, heavy duty this is, but also how delicate it can be, how dexterous you have to be to get it around.
It makes me think about what it must be like on a spacewalk, working with a robotic arm. And these guys are masters at it. And they also clearly know how precious what they're lifting is. Most of these guys are great sailors themselves, so they really are passionate about doing this right, doing it properly, and getting her home.
Hours after the sun went down,
The mast has just pierced the surface. It's looking good right now. A lot more to come, though.
finally at 3 o'clock in the morning, Severn 2 was above water. An owner said Giles was there to greet her, already planning her regatta return.
We're looking forward to getting her back in shape again, making all the repairs and seeing her through into doing some racing before the season's over.
After 2 weeks in the murky depths of Lake Ontario, Severn 2 sees the light of day.
I thought that weekend, to be honest, that we would never see her again. To have her above water and on her way to be repaired up at our uncle's shop, I couldn't be happier.
Their hearts sank with the ship, but the sailing community's collective might brought her back and will keep her afloat for years to come. Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
A happy ending to that story. Turning back to weather now and what you can expect for the rest of the week. Will it stay this hot? Jay Scotland has that.
Yes, Angelina, very muggy. The air was thick today. Certainly very hot conditions. And through the overnight hours tonight, really not much relief. That heat warning doesn't end into the evening and overnight hours when the temperature is staying around 19, 20, 21 degrees without air conditioning. Really not a chance for your apartment, your house, your condo to really cool down through the overnight hours without an air conditioner. So heat warning still in place, not just across the greater Toronto area, all across southern Ontario. And will be with us tomorrow as well. We will watch for a pretty clear sky through the overnight hours tonight. Fog patches will be possible. Temperatures anywhere from 19 to 21 degrees. That'll be the range of overnight temperatures tonight. And we'll start out very sunny tomorrow morning across the region. Into the afternoon, they're very isolated. You can see some very scattered showers developing. Just know that with the muggy air in place, we could be looking at a rumble of thunder or two to go along with those isolated showers. You get a lake breeze coming in off of Lake Ontario, pushing up the Oak Ridges Moraine. You get a thunder shower as a result as we look to the Durham region, for example. And that chance is there down with the escarpment or really anywhere across the region late afternoon, early evening tomorrow. As we push into Thursday, we start out with a bit of sunshine, but you can see to our west, kind of pushing in through Caledon, some showers, maybe late morning into the afternoon. That does make its way across the GTHA, and it could come with some locally heavy downpours, some thunderstorms certainly possible. That's relief. We get some active weather possible, though, as the cold front moves in. I think we'll be happy with the passage of that cold front, though, as we get in towards the weekend. Still warm, just not nearly as muggy, so it won't feel as thick or oppressive as we round out the rest of the work week. Tonight, not the case. 19, 20, 21 degrees be the range of overnight temperatures tonight. And pretty much cutting and pasting my forecast from yesterday. We could look at it's a slight chance, but isolated thunderstorms late afternoon, evening. A lot of sunshine to get us there, but temperatures up around or over 30, feeling high 30s to around 40 with that humidity in place. So still hot, a little unsettled Wednesday. Much more widespread chance for thunderstorms and some locally heavy downpours, some gusty winds as well on Thursday. But that cold front drops temperatures with some morning showers clearing out on Friday. It's still a warm weekend, but it's going to be a lot more comfortable, a lot less humidity in place in that long-range outlook. Angelina?
All right, thanks for that, Jay. Welcome back. Expect big changes at Centennial Park in Etobicoke in the coming years. The city has plans to update it with new playgrounds and sports facilities, but that means closing the go-kart track, batting cages, and beach volleyball courts, which have been staples in the park for more than 3 decades. And as Greg Ross tells us, the changes are being met with disappointment from some.
After 35 years in Centennial Park, this is expected to be the last for this 2.6-kilometer go-kart track, the largest in Canada. Also closing after this season are these batting cages and beach volleyball courts.
I think in a word, it's probably disbelief.
Don Dugan owns the Centennial Park Mini Indy track and has been involved since 1991. He leases the property for the track, batting cages, and volleyball courts from the city. He says a couple of years ago, he was invited to a public consultation on the future plans of the park, And that's when he found out that his lease wouldn't be renewed beyond this year.
There was no actual consultation with us, and we never seen anybody actually come out here and say, you know, what's your traffic count? You know, how many people are coming here? We've never seen that.
He says they have about 140,000 customers that use these facilities every year.
It's such a beautiful area, you know. A place like this is a gem in Toronto, and it's like really too bad.
It's ridiculous. There's nothing like this in the city.
There's not many batting diamonds anywhere, so not having one of these, you're gonna have to drive pretty far, like either like Vaughan, York, or like further down to Oakville.
I think that they have made a decision that doesn't incorporate the best interests of all the people involved.
The city says the decision is part of the Centennial Park Master Plan, which included input from the community. It includes building new playgrounds and water play areas for kids, as well as adding more sports facilities,
including soccer and baseball, and also natural areas where people can just walk around or have a picnic and enjoy a park. We're seeing things like a winter market fair and even a skating trail planned for the future.
Ethan Mitchell, who operates and manages the batting cages and volleyball courts, says the park is big enough to bring in new facilities without getting rid of the old ones.
So there's a huge empty field right there that is just sitting there primed and ready.
Operators of the facilities have started petitions to try and stop the city from closing them down. They've been told that they must vacate by November 30th. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, that's our show for tonight. But before you go, I want to leave you with some pictures from the supermoon last night. It's known as the buck moon because it's the time of the year when male deer grow out their antlers. And it was visible around the world. It's the fourth of our supermoons this year. You can see the next two in August and then the fourth one in September. Some really cool shots there for you to take a look at. Thanks so much for watching and have a great evening.